Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 28th day of September 2020. Well, we have some moon energy today, but there's a trine with Mercury, so interactions should flow smoothly. Maybe. Lots of information coming out, though, right now, isn't there? If you read the New York Times article, or if you just saw clips from it, or what have you, it was unlocked yesterday, so I read the whole thing. I printed it out, in fact, much to my chagrin, because it printed out in really big print. So it's like pages. I just changed my printer ink, too. It's like, oh, God, am I going to have any left? Anyway. Well, I hope everybody's having a good Monday so far. It's really not, the day's not old enough yet. It's only 7:28 my time, so I don't know how my day's going to go. Although I have some more harvesting to do. I've got to go harvest some hawthorn berry off the trees. I didn't get to that yesterday, but I was processing some dried herbs yesterday and harvesting a little bit more and just trying. We've got a little more time here, though, on the season because we got some really good weather coming up. And I think I'm going to probably, have more time than I thought I would. Sometimes that happens around here where we'll have a really nice October. And maybe that's going to be the case this year. I mean, October's always nice here. Even when the weather starts to turn, it's still nice. But if we can get a little more growing time for the tomatoes, it's better because I don't have that much. Although I'm freezing them whole this year, and then we use the food saver to shrink everything down, or not I don't have them in a loose bag, in other words. But you can just use them that way. You don't have to process them or anything. You can just stick them on a cookie sheet. I stick them in a freezer bag and freeze them, and that way there's no, I close it off so there's no further air getting in there. But that way it keeps them in one spot. They're not rolling around all over the place on the cookie sheet. But I do it that way, and then we take them back out, and my husband seals them for me. He does that part for me. And they've been turning out really well. All you have to do is just thaw them out. You can use them for sauces and, whatever. But I just didn't really feel like doing any sauce this year. I still have some from last year, so I didn't want to have to do that. Anyway, so I just tried this, and it seems to be working really well. Either that, or I like to take and dry them and then powder them up. I like to use tomato powder and things. That's also another thing you can do with your tomatoes if you're trying to think of other things to do other than canning. And my plants look so good out there. I want to get everything I can from them. They look really good this year. Everything does, really. The cabbage is getting really big, which is really cool. I haven't grown cabbage in years. So it's very cool that they're turning out. I think I just have 6 of them done. And I guess we're going to try this old-fashioned storage on a couple of them just to see, where you dig a hole and you bury them, you pull them, and you have the roots sticking out of the hole. But anyway, you bury the cabbage head in the dirt. And apparently it works, and you can store your cabbage all winter long that way. So we're going to try that on a couple of them. The rest I'm going to use for coleslaw, though. It's nothing like fresh cabbage for coleslaw. It's just wonderful. So anyway, I guess that's enough shuffling and talking about the garden. And the roosters woke me up this morning about 6, which was nice. And they let me sleep in an hour, so anyway. Let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards and see what we have. And then if we don't need any more, we'll go on to the rune from the Elder Futhark bag, and then we'll close out with a geomancy rune. So then we'll let you get on with your day. Well, we have the 9 of Pentacles to start us out. A woman of means standing in her garden looks like she's going to go on a falcon hunt. She's likely the queen, or at least the woman of the manor, at least. She's got all of her abundance around her. I love the robe she's wearing. That is just so cool. We'll look at that a little more closely. I'm not sure what the design is on there. I'm not sure if it's meant to be like a strawberry, or because it's not red. They're outlined in red, but it doesn't show anything else. Here we have the Four of Wands coming into polarity and balance with other people in terms of a marriage, balanced energy exchange, and all of that. So far, we have, let's see, 9 and 4 is what? 13, so that's a 4 so far on the numerology. And if this is your first time here, I take the 13th card each time for randomness sake. I don't want my shuffling to interfere with any. If I don't get the deck shuffled well enough, like from the day before, then I could end up with the same cards, and I don't want to do that. So I like to be as random as possible. Here we have the 14th card of the Major Arcana, Temperance. We're going to put that in the center, I think. And we'll start with the Angel. Well, we have an angel pouring water from one chalice to the other, balancing fire with water. So will with emotions, which, you know, the water is supposed to quash the fire within, basically, so that the will doesn't get going too much. But at the same time, the will provides a little bit of oomph for the waters, because water can create stagnation. And so you kind of want all that in balance, right? And what do you end up with? You end up with moderation or temperance. You see the water irises growing there. I have some growing on next to my pond in a couple of places, so it's kind of reminiscent of my pond here. The angel has 1 foot on the ground, on the land, and 1 foot in the water. So this doesn't just bring in fire and water, it also brings in earth as well. You see the sun rising between the 2 peaks in the distance, and the path coming down from the mountain. Again, 2 peaks meaning balance. Now, whether that pathway is actually a dry creek bed which feeds the stream, say at certain times of the year, or not, or it's simply just a path coming out of the water, but it can also be going away from it as well. But again, what you're doing is you're balancing will with emotion, and you're trying to keep everything in balance so nothing's getting too stagnant and nothing too willful. In other words, inertia versus too much force, or inertia versus a lack of inertia. There, that's what I should say. A lack of inertia versus inertia. So force versus no force. You want to have some kind of moderation in between. Now, here, she's just hanging out. Now, a 9 means endings, completion, unity, or not unity, but wholeness, humanitarianism, all of that. So it's like you can see the bigger picture, but maybe in this case the bigger picture is just her. She's really focused on her own elegance and her own abundance there. You see it's all around her. You see the grapes there. See the grapes over here. That's indicative of abundance. But again, you've got 2 trees here, indicative of some kind of balance. So maybe she's achieved moderation by learning to appreciate the abundance that she has. I mean, her hand is resting on it. Is the only part, I guess, that bothers me about the picture. But on the other hand, it could indicate a sense of security. That when you remain in balance and in moderation, you have that sense of security. You don't have the feeling that everything's getting away from you, in other words. And so that really is what the 9 of Pentacles is all about, really. It's finding your own, as I said, I think on the esoteric reading today, you're finding your own centered presence, basically, and living within that security. Whether in her case, we're talking material security as well. But still, there's a measure of success. She doesn't feel the need to do anything more than just be within it. And so she has that material security there. And then how do you deal with temperance with the Four of Wands? Well, again, you're talking about the will here with wands and the fire element. And so we bring will into balance on both sides, representing the couple here. Will is brought into balance, head and heart, all of it's brought into balance. Intellect, emotion, all of it. You see the crossed garlands above, similar to Gebo, the rune Gebo, or balanced energy exchange. And that's really what's happening here, isn't it? They've come together. You see them holding their bouquets high. There's only 3 of them, though. So there's, one's holding 2 and the other's holding 1. So that can indicate mind, body, spirit balance that we come into. When we balance the polarity within, then the couple can then come together and create a new type of polarity between the 2 of them. Now, if you want to extrapolate that further, you can think of that in terms of relationships with other people. You can think of it in terms of the collective. You can think of it in terms of balancing service to self versus service to others, all of that. Just whatever types of polarity balance you can think of, the 4 can really, really talk about this. But when we talk about the 4, we're talking about structure, okay? We're talking about balance. We have a 5 energy with the temperance card. And so we had, 9 and 4 is 13. So that's a 4 plus 5 is 9. So again, we arrive at the same place we began when we first pulled the card, of a 9 energy of completion and peace and security and I think the humanitarian part is also emphasized in this card as well. And when you think about it in terms of the 4, you're thinking about foundation and structure. So the values that we have in our lives. This is just so interesting, because it's very similar to what we talked about in the Esoteric Influences reading here today, about maintaining your values and using that as a basis to not be deterred from that. Again, we're finding out more and more of the reason why the guy in the Oval Office is there. Okay, just read the New York Times article. It was unlocked yesterday, so it may still be today. I'm sure that they want everyone to know what they've found out, because they got his tax returns. Not for 2018 or 2019, but up through 2017, they got him. So we understand now why he's there. And it isn't to be the president of this country. Okay? And I think, going forward, we're unfortunately going to figure out the details of all of this. And so again, maintain your values through this, maintain your foundation, maintain your centered presence. Understand that this is going to be a transitory moment in our collective experience together. It isn't going to last forever, although there could be some significant changes imposed, particularly with this current Supreme Court nominee. Now, I'm getting from my pendulum that it won't go forward, but I don't know. The pendulum tends to take the energy at the time. Not necessarily. Things can change along the way, so we don't know. But we'll see. Maybe it will be her. Maybe it won't. It's a little hypocritical given what the Republicans did to President Obama and his Supreme Court nomination, Merrick Garland. It's hypocritical. But that's what we deal with. Again, we're looking at balancing the polarity between even the 2 parties. That's another example of that. And I don't know that there's any way to do that right now. So some of this too, you're kind of settled into what is. And you try to find your way through it, in a way that is workable. And I think the only way to do that is in terms of moderation and keeping your head about you and not allowing the will to get too far, or to have so much inertia that you can't move. And, that's the thing. When water doesn't move, what happens? It gets stagnant. And so we don't want that either. And so it's finding that balance today that's really going to make or break the whole thing. Thurisaz is the rune for today. 3rd rune of the Elder Futhark, very catalytic. Its keyword is the thorn. It's also known as Thor's rune. It's also it's the power to break through. That's the other part of the water element. And the whole notion of change. It also talks about change or lack thereof, right? In terms of stagnation. But if we want to break through the stagnation into truth, we have to come to some kind of understanding about what that is. And sometimes the only way to do that is to break through with the energy of Thurisaz and to figure out, okay, what's really the truth here? If you're working around roses, I have a bunch of rose bushes, and you get next to the thorn, it hits you, it pokes you, then you bleed, and or maybe you tear your skin open from it. I mean, it reminds you to pay attention. It reminds you to engage, basically, to engage your perception, to engage your awareness, instead of remaining stagnant and not paying attention to anything. And so I think that even with temperance, though, you still have to figure out a way to manage the willfulness versus the stagnation and come into some kind of moderate, temperate type of response or perception as to what's going on. Material security, of course, is still, though, in focus today, because if what I think has happened with this guy and his strange little needs that he has to be deceptive and self-dealing and all of that. My candle's trying to go out here. I think that, you kind of understand that he wants to impact everybody's financial security. That's what's really happening here today. Well, let's see what we have. Where are my other little runes? Here they are here. Let's see what we have for the geomancy rune, though. If there's any breakthrough energy there. Oh, well, no, not really. The rune for today is populous. Let's see if I can find it without dumping everything out. Oh, there we go. We have populous. The complement to that's via. The difference between the two is via is all single dots, and single dots in geomancy indicate an active influence. And so here we have fire, air, water, and earth. That's the top to bottom. That's the elemental order that they're placed in when you do your geomancy runes here. But with the dual dot, you're talking passive energy. Now, this means going with the flow of the group. Okay? It means group behavior. So again, depending upon the group you're in, that's either gonna work for you or not. It can complicate your life depending on the group you belong to. But also, it's a passive type of an influence. So again, we've had a lot of people, and you can also think acceptance. But what are you accepting? Are you accepting behavior that is within yourself that's just out of step with the rest of the world or with the idea of the general values of the world? Of unity and harmony and shared purpose and shared direction. It's one thing if populace is reflecting shared direction, because it can, but shared direction of what, right? Is it one that is taken in temperance, in balance? Because here you can think of the balanced path in a way, but again, it's one of those neutral geomancy runes. Via is another one, where it really just depends on the circumstance as to what that's talking about. What flow are you really in? Is it one that's going to be protective? Are you someone who's in the flow of wearing a mask properly out and about and not just a face shield and not wearing the mask below the nose? Or I saw one woman at a store we were in. She had it hanging off of her glasses and just here. And instead of, I talked about this once before, instead of walking around all of us that are in line, that have been in line for 10 or 15 minutes because they can't get it together at the check stands, right? And keep the line moving. Oh no, instead we're all standing there. Unfortunately, everyone's in a mask, but still, nobody's socially distancing in that line. And what does she do? Instead of going around, she comes right through us. It's like get in the flow of keeping people safe, maybe, instead of getting into the flow of I can't be bothered, right? Because that's really the message. So I had a little conversation with the manager when I got home. I called him up and I said, hey, just letting you know this happened. And just letting you know, I like your store. Love your garden shop. Like to shop there. But I'm thinking I can't if I'm going to have to experience this. The whole line was horrified at what she did. So I would imagine I wasn't the only person who said something, because it really was that bad. I mean, it really was that bad that day. So it's like, my gosh, people, either you want to keep your customers safe or you don't. Well, they do. And I'm serious. They were one of the first places in town to have a sign up saying, hey, you need a mask on when you come in here. And if you don't happen to have one, stop by the check stand. We'll give you one. So it's like, okay, you've got staff people that don't quite comprehend this. You need to talk to him again. And he said he would. It was a really positive conversation. I didn't get mad. He didn't get mad. It was all just about collecting information and sharing what I learned and saying, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this. And he's like, yeah, me either. I'll have a talk with all of them. And I'm sure that he did. I didn't feel like he was shining me on. So again, finding some kind of balance in a way that makes sense today, balancing will with emotion, and coming into some temperate viewpoint based on your values, based on the four energy of the Four of Wands, coming together in some kind of unified purpose, the way a marriage happens. Mind, body, spirit in balance, you see. Breaking through the stagnation. If we have been stagnant in our ability to respond to things, we can't be stagnant in our ability to respond to things. On the other hand, we don't want to be too willful in our response either, right? So you find that balance, that temperance today on a Monday, which is always challenging. It's like, no, get away from me. It's Monday. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Trying to keep these a little bit shorter because it's taking like 3 or 4 hours to upload now. Is crazy. So if I keep them a little shorter, that doesn't happen. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. We'll talk again tomorrow. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Wear a mask if you go out and about around anyone at all, whether you're inside or out. And blessed be.